Yo, welcome to the Spaceless Realms History channel. Today we'll be speaking about the neo-Nazis, the Nazi experiments, the Nazi philosophy of life. The, yeah, just I really don't have that much knowledge in this area, so of course I'm here with Kalki, and we will be speaking about everything that, yeah, how this shaped our world and the world that we live in today. So, Nazis, Kalki, what's up?
It's a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that because I think too many people forget that when we won the war with the Allied forces in 45, the Nazis didn't just disappear off the face of the planet. The power structure just shifted hands, essentially. But it's still the same cabal. The Nazis had to be funded by the world bankers. They stole a lot from the Swiss, but they also used the Swiss that were working with them and the French and everyone else in their coalition all across the planet to actually make them do their nefarious deeds. And they were very, very good at that, at posing under like essentially fascism, like I was saying earlier, was pretending to be socialist and communistic and making it appear that way by having a thriving economy and everything structured really well and booming technology and really high quality work, no slave labor, good living standards for people in those countries. But for anyone that was a dissenter, that's the difference between fascism and the true application of, say, communism or Marxism or socialism. Now, in history, they've all looked very similar. Socialism and communism have looked like fascism for many people. I'm
Hmm.
not going to deny that. Everybody is hidden under the guise of different political parties, rightists, leftists. They've done that. Yeah.
I don't have that much knowledge like regarding like the wars and everything like that. So how did the war lead up to all of this happening? And just like yeah, just go back in the past. Just go back in like a time traveler, you know?
What's very interesting to see is that the rise, what I don't even know that much about, I'm not a professional historian, but I've studied a decent amount in my spare time to actually figure it out because I have some Palestinian roots. I have some Hebraic roots. I'm
Mm.
from all over the diaspora, but I have some Sephardic blood. I have a lot of different bloodlines that flow through me as a Tsigani. And I had to realize that they murdered 500,000 Tsiganis, 500,000 approximately gypsies, literally, of that Aroma people. They murdered them in the Holocaust, but we barely ever talk about that. So that's part of my history. On both sides of my family, those are Holocaust survivors. Either
Mm.
survivors or some of our relatives were murdered in there. So to me, that was super important to look back at the origins of that. We'd have to go back to the origins of the First Reich. And I don't even know how far back that would go. You'd have to look up. You could probably find it on Wikipedia in 2 seconds. But the First Reich of Nazis was way earlier than people believe. People think the Nazis were in power for less than a decade or something, like 39 to 45. And they're like, well, there was the rise of power and then they lost. But it was like we were worried about a world invasion of Nazi principles and an alliance that was so strong, which, not coincidentally enough, was called the Axis of Evil. Those forces needed to be wiped out and eradicated.
Mm.
But the problem is, to this day, people don't just disappear after a war is won. You have victors and you have, well, in that case, you have losers. And the losers, they hide underground. They've done all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of theories about Nazi moon bases, about Nazi technology in Agartha. I don't want to get into conspiracy theory too much because I want people to actually believe this, to take it at rational face value. But you have to realize the technology we're using is functioning on neo-Nazi frequency principles. Edison defeated Tesla in the financial battle, and Tesla was broke and penniless when he died. He was, he had practically nothing and no patents and no, discoveries left to his name. So,
That's
or
crazy.
practically nothing he could do anything with. He had to sell them to Edison to actually get some money.
Mm.
So, history is written by the victors, essentially.
So explain the spiritual meanings behind the swastika and why it is so powerful.
Well, the swastika, again, it's a term, like it's a classic case of plagiarism. It was stolen from India. This is relating to the Aryan invasions. And this is like the misinterpretation of that is that it was flipped around. So, it's like inverting a symbol for a cross and turning it upside down and using it for demonic worship. That's
Mm.
essentially what the Nazi party did with that broken cross. they stole a symbol, culturally appropriated a symbol from Persian people that was used in India that represented the basis of the caste system back then. But it's much more complex than that. In a sense, it's supposed to look like a medicine wheel almost, but in a much more primary, like symbolic sense. But then they've stolen that, just like people have stolen the effigy of Christ, just like people have stolen the Bible, stolen the Quran, stolen the Torah, and then used it for abominations. So they've done that.
Okay, go on, go on.
I would say, you could go into symbolism. I don't want to start giving a beautiful symbolism to a cross. I think we already know what the cross represents in the four direction, the broken cross itself, which spans into even more potential directions. But it's still like, it's like this balance of it. It's similar to a yin and yang symbol in a sense, but it's very, very fundamentally different. It's like from the duality of the two comes the four, but then you've got the I and the I plus the two parts, which is still four parts in the yin and yang. So, people argue about whether it's the Trinity or the four directions or the oneness or the one God or four gods or 10. I'm like, what if it was infinite? What if everything represents infinity? But the broken cross is an uncompleted infinite flower of life symbol. The flower of life is much more geometrically pleasing. It's much more satisfying. It's much more beautiful to look at, to me, because of its historical implications, because of how much is loaded within that symbol, especially when you see it on a red flag with a white background. But if you saw it in India on ancient temples, it would be different because it's inverted. It's like somebody satanically tried to appropriate that, and that's what Hitler did. You still there, brethren? I should keep talking on the subject just to actually make it coherent for anyone that's out there. What's very interesting with the neo-Nazi technology aspect of it, something we should ponder. It's interesting to study because you need to know where the evil is originating from. But the chakra frequencies of our body, the resonance frequencies, you can find those easily online as well too. Like for example, 432 hertz is the crown chakra frequency. 528 hertz is the chakra for the heart, Anahata chakra. And so if you look at these chakra frequencies, they're purposefully distorted in technology that's made from slave labor, from minerals that are forced into certain, compressed situations, overheating, functioning off of Edison-based electricity that's maladjusted to our body frequencies. The Nazis were very devious in the way that they controlled us. And even to this day, there's an academic book called Blitz, Drugs in the Third Reich, that explains how all of Big Pharma was actually originated through the Nazi Empire. So everything we have as pharmaceuticals now that we've appropriated culturally from indigenous cultures, it comes from the Nazis. So our remnants as a society are the Greco-Roman child-abusing pederasts on one side of that civilization, which is all our political institutions and the whole of society in general that supports that tacitly and actively. And then on top of that, you've got the Nazi influence, the technology, the research, the resources, the illusion of democracy, the illusion of having wealth for everyone, the illusion of being very advanced and supreme and policing the world. That's what the US is. The new Zionites with Israel, same thing. It's a rebirth of the Nazi Empire. It's called the Fourth Reich for a reason.
Very well said. Very well said, Kalki. Thank you. Huh. Okay, so I have a question about Hitler as a person. Why okay, what's the significance and meaning behind why he held his hand like this, you know?
Well, it's an army salute,
Oh yeah, okay.
It's like a Navy and Army salute, but like I don't know what he would have thought of. It was like his way to prove that he was supreme dictator,
Who do you
just be
think?
like everybody under my command. And if you think about hip hop, it's very funny because people make you do something very similar. You just move your arms up and down like you're worshiping the person. And that's what people do at hip hop shows. They just move their hands up and down and go, yes, 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 at every word. It's like they're worshiping the artist on stage. So that's kind of what they were doing with Hitler.
Yeah,
And
that's really a cult for sure.
yeah, it's very sad, and it's genocidally sad to think of, not of Hitler, but of what he did. and consider that he was kicked out of art school, and that's probably one of the reasons why he became a dictator instead of becoming an artist. He was denied a bunch of other shit. Now, I'm Hitler for anything, but what's very interesting to look at is look at society and what they do to us. Look at the shooters in high schools. Look at everyone that turns into a genocidal tyrant. Look at these beautiful, blossoming, flourishing countries across the diaspora that used to have ancient civilizations from millions of years ago and advanced structures and all kinds of technologies. And we lost all of that because what we preferred genocidal tyrants. And we know that we're run by those people. We know the world is still run by people like Hitler. Donald Trump is pretty much like Hitler. Joe Biden is like the guy who's the zombie on the other side of Donald Trump. And then you've got what else across the planet? Dictators left and right, like Bolsonaro in Brazil, or you had Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran. And you've got like all across the diaspora, everyone's like, that's the reason why people use racism as an excuse sometimes, is to literally say that, you know, oh, well, look at those other countries. They're not doing it. I'm like, it's colonialism. They destroyed everything. They're like, the Nazi Empire was there. A bunch of other people were there. We're neo-Nazis now in the society we live in, not us. Because that's one thing I wanted to talk about, the Avengers. So the Avengers is based on a real life story of Jewish and Palestinian super sentient assassins who decided to murder the Nazis. That was a small group of resistance. There was barely any of them.
Wait,
but they
bro,
were trained.
wait,
They actually almost managed to murder millions of Nazis by poisoning them.
Yo, I want you to say that one more time. That sounds really interesting, but I didn't quite catch that.
So the Avengers, the comic series, the Marvel series, is originally based on a I don't know when, maybe 50s or 60s Marvel comic where they talked about the Avengers during the Nazi years in the Third Reich that actually tried to murder millions of Nazis and managed to get some of the poison confiscated at the port, but they still managed to poison and make violently ill, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 Nazis at one of the bases, but they had brought back enough poison on a boat to murder the entire Nazi regiment. Like, and I mean, like the entire Nazi army, like the working force of the Nazi army would have been decimated. But the British authorities confiscated the poison when they were coming over. Somebody tipped them off. So imagine there was a plan by super sentient Hebrew and Palestinian assassins to murder the entire Nazi empire with poison, and it almost succeeded. That's a crazy story. That's what the Avengers and Marvel is based on. But then it turned into Thor and everything else. They switched up the characters. I don't know how they did that. They made it seem very mythological and fantastic, but then they stopped. Avengers series was about World War II and battling the Nazis.
Wow. Huh. That's really cool. I did not know that. That's really interesting, honestly.
One of my partners, Harley Padma, actually taught me that.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like all of the mythical things portrayed on TV nowadays and all these characters and all these archetypes, they span back to our history. You know what I mean? They're kind of like strong, or not really strong, but really just powerful, energetic archetypes that existed in our past. But
yeah,
those people are changing those names around, so then people don't get the full meaning of it, kind of. I don't know. That's hard to explain.
They've tried to do that with Jesus. They've tried to do that with like Che Guevara, you know, with Buddha. Like they try to commercialize and distort everything. But at the end of the day, we know what the truth is. You know, we have good ideas of what it is. And that's what this podcast is here to expose in many senses, is like the truth of the matter from perspectives sometimes that are based in historical fact, but other times from direct fact that's scientifically provable. So I'm really grateful to everyone who actually listens to what we have to say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So what can we do moving forward to just to gain power and be able to overcome the forces that are here to bind us and trap us down?
Minimize technological use.
Yeah,
Don't be on a big screen too much. eat healthy, drink good, clean water, use you can afford it, and if you can eat locally, even better. Have a good, solid community of friends around you because
Mhm.
that's good vibrational frequencies. Could be animals, could be any. As long as you have good vibrational frequencies around you, you're good.
I think another really big thing is to have no fear, because
Yes,
fear is the mind killer. Fear is like what keeps you in that lower vibrational state. And another thing that I've noticed is more so about learning how to stabilize your frequency instead of like trying to raise your frequency, because when you raise it, you're just getting more lost in a way. So if you're able to learn how to stabilize your frequency and stabilize your energies and find balance, that's where the gold is.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree entirely. Because raising your frequency would be like increasing the output on a computer without realizing that you've only got like a certain amount of gigahertz available. You might overclock the computer.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna pull a tarot card and then we'll end it off. So, boom. Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles. Oh, honestly, this is pretty cool. It looks like this lady is holding. Actually, wait, no. All right, what do you think? Two of Pentacles. Hello, Kalki. Bro, you're frozen. You're frozen. You're frozen, bro.